Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're all doing well and keeping safe on this Friday. It's a great Friday to be a Chelsea fan, obviously after last night's massive win away at Anfield against Liverpool in the Premier League. The first time Chelsea have beat Liverpool at Anfield in the Premier League for 7 years. There's a nice parallel actually when you think about Atletico Madrid last week and Chelsea giving themselves such a great opportunity to progress past the last 16 for the first time since 2014, winning at Anfield for the first time since 2014. You really hope these things can be great sort of landmarks of progress for Thomas Tuchel early on his reign, and Chelsea can progress to the next level, especially domestically next season in the Premier League. Can Chelsea finally go from being a team qualifying for the Champions League, the slog each year to get into the top four, to one that can seriously compete at the top level in the league with the likes of Man City once again? We'll have to wait and see next season, but I want to speak a little bit about that, how we improve for next season. Erling Haaland, the links do not stop for Haaland for next season in the summer, that massive transfer that could be happening. We'll get into that. Also, the future of Fikayo Tomori, what's going to be happening to him, of course, on loan at AC Milan at the moment. But before we get into any of that good stuff, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, do me a favour, and if you're excited about Tuchel's Chelsea winning at Anfield, hit that like button because it helps out the channel as well. Also want to say a massive thank you to Lucid FC once again for powering Let's Talk Chelsea, sponsoring the channel in 2021. Great guys, Lucid FC, for sponsoring the channel and being such great guys about the channel as well, supporting it. Lucid FC is a fashion label founded by twins Betts and Chet D. Hart in 2010, reflecting a deeply British American heritage and inspired by both cultures. Their design approach also reflects their interest in fashion history, form and function, and the brand has become known for its playful modern heritage aesthetic. Lucid FC's new collection was designed by the twins during the first lockdown in London. The Lucid Dreams PMA collection brings all the positivity and warm thoughts to the wearer's mental capacity, with perfect comfortable hoodies and t-shirts that you can get in the link below. Lucid FC, great guys for sponsoring the channel. We're going to have some brilliant giveaways actually in the coming weeks of Lucid FC partnering with the channel, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But for now, go in the description box below, check out Lucid FC, their new collection and all the stuff on their website. Thank you once again, Lucid FC, for sponsoring Let's Talk Chelsea in 2021. So a massive win last night, it really was. Just looking at some of the stats, of course the match winner Mason Mount, our hero Mason Mount, who has now scored more goals for Chelsea since Tuchel took charge than any other teammate. That's 3 goals, and having such a key influence in the final third for Chelsea, which I think is so key in this new role he has, being a little bit more advanced. He needs to be better in front of goal, and last night you saw it. Eden Hazard-esque goal, a goal Hazard would have been proud of at Anfield, like he scored a few down the years. And we go on to sort of the first 10 games for Thomas Tuchel as Chelsea's manager and comparing them to Jose Mourinho, how impressive it is. Jose's first 10 games as Chelsea manager, he had 8 wins, 2 draws, 14 goals scored, 2 goals conceded and 8 clean sheets. Thomas Tuchel's first 10 games, 7 wins, 3 draws, 11 goals scored, only 2 conceded, 8 clean sheets. We've actually only conceded 1 goal to an opposition player, of course the Antonio Rudiger own goal against Sheffield United, and that was a Liverpool player who's now on loan at Southampton, Minamino. He's been so good for Chelsea, so much improvement in such a short space of time. It's a big win for Tuchel, but there were some big players last night. Mason Mount, who I heaped praise on, who I think deserves so much praise, so much nonsense spouted about him. He is a quality footballer that is essential to the way Thomas Tuchel wants to play. And another player who is quickly becoming essential too is Andreas Christensen. Liam Toomey writing this piece after last night's game. Brave, intelligent and confident Andreas Christensen is back at his best. Absolutely his tactical piece, Liam Toomey, that he does after most Chelsea games, and he focuses in on key performers in games. Definitely go and read it. Link in the description box below. And Christensen has been wonderful. He really has. I have been stunned by how good he's been. If you've been watching this channel for over a year, I've had my doubts about Christensen. I do think it's fair to say that he's in a system now that very much suits him, a much more possession-based system for a defender like him. He's in the middle of a back three, where he started his Chelsea career, where he originally broke into the first team under Antonio Conte. He was in the middle of a back three then. But given this is a player who I'm sure would have had many doubts about his future at Chelsea, being taken in and out, not being sort of that certified starter. And I think there were many doubts about Christensen, about what type of player he could be at Chelsea. Is he going to be a player that will move on eventually? I definitely felt that. But being brought on after that Thiago Silva injury at Tottenham, he hasn't put a foot wrong since, and he's been so good. I think his bravery, yes, his physicality, I think, has improved. His game awareness as well. I don't think that's ever been a weak part of his game, actually. My concern has always been that physical side, but seeing his performances consistently now, this isn't one or two performances. He's been one of Chelsea's most consistent performers under Thomas Tuchel so far. And given Thiago Silva, how monumental he's been for Chelsea so far this season, we've gotten into a stage now where Thiago Silva almost ready to be back in the first team. Do you take Christensen out? You know, he's performing so well at the moment, and especially against the likes of Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, Mohamed Salah, shutting them down last night, especially Mane. And you think about earlier in the season where he got that red card against Liverpool, a bit of redemption just within this season. But for Christensen, this could be a defining run of games in his Premier League career for Chelsea, because it could turn out that Christensen is no longer one of those players that's in rotation that you don't really trust to be in the Chelsea team week in, week out. This could potentially be the moment where he makes himself a guaranteed starter under Thomas Tuchel, and it's wonderful to see. And I just want to say this, I don't have agendas against players. I think that's really silly. If you're a supporter, you should be happy when any player plays well. And I'm so happy to be proven wrong on Christensen, because if he's playing well and Chelsea are winning games like last night, I'm not complaining, because Chelsea are winning games. And that's what, as supporters, we want to see. And Christensen is another product of the youth academy, isn't he? And I think people forget that because he hasn't come up with the crop of Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Reece James. But Christensen, it's wonderful to see. He looks so elegant on the ball. He seems so calm and composed at a ground like Anfield. Him, Dave and Rudiger have formed a really good chemistry back there. And I think especially having a player like Jorginho in front of Christensen, you see the way we progress the ball from Edouard Mendy. It's Christensen and usually to Jorginho. It's wonderful. And Christensen, let's hope, can go from strength to strength, seeing how Tuchel works with him now. Seeing also next season, if we were to go to a back four, Christensen's maybe flaws in that system. Can he adapt to that? That'd be a big question mark. But for now, Christensen deserves so much praise. Man of the match last night for many, and I have no complaints about that. He was wonderful, he really was, and why Chelsea got that clean sheet, got the massive 3 points at Anfield, and Christensen is back to his best. But I also want to touch on some transfer news. Firstly, a potential incoming in the summer, a massive signing that potentially could be happening this summer. Erling Haaland, I think it would be the deal of the summer if Chelsea were to get it done. There's been so much noise, constant daily noise now about Erling Haaland. I think there is something in this because it constantly is being brought up, also by the right kind of people, you know, Matt Law reporting on this. And I sort of wanted to go into his piece that he wrote for the Telegraph earlier this week, where he talks about the race for Erling Haaland, Man United, Man City and Chelsea, all in the hunt for superstar striker, but what are their chances? He sort of goes into all aspects here in terms of Chelsea, City, United, who has sort of the positives and negatives, who sort of has maybe the edge in convincing maybe Haaland to join in the summer if the deal is a possibility from Borussia Dortmund. He talks about how agent Mino Raiola and his involvement with Man United in the past really helps United over City and Chelsea. The manager pool of Pep Guardiola at Man City could be a big factor in luring Haaland to City instead of Chelsea and United. But the ownership factor, and this for me is the big point, you know, Roman Abramovich, and Matt Law says if he really wants Haaland and he's willing to work with Raiola, then United and City will find him difficult to beat. I think the first thing I want to point out is I think back to this time last year when on the channel I was speaking about a lot of the summer targets and how they radically changed from February to March to May, June, July, when we actually get into the business of the transfer window. We knew, especially with Kai Havertz, for instance, and I think you could sort of match up Kai Havertz with Erling Haaland here in terms of how much it's going to take to bring someone like Erling Haaland to Chelsea and how much groundwork probably needs to be done to get this deal a reality, basically, for Chelsea in the summer. So obviously things could be happening right now. We know this about transfers. You know, it's not just FIFA. You don't just suddenly have interest in a player and it gets done within a couple of minutes. Of course, especially with Kai Havertz, we know Chelsea scouted this player for over a year before going in to sign him and getting the deal done. So groundwork could have already been happening for Erling Haaland, as we know, and we may find out if Chelsea do get this deal over the line. You've got to think about guys like Alex Telles, Philip Coutinho, players like that. Many names get linked to Chelsea, and as we get closer and closer to that summer transfer window, I think the name and the shortlist will go down. I think the thing I would pick up on is, say, someone like Ben Chilwell was a constant name we heard being linked to Chelsea pretty much from December 2019, and I remember Simon Johnson from The Athletic reporting this. The first sort of strong link we heard was from Simon Johnson as well, who reported this back in January. I made a video about this that you can go and check out, where he reported on it back in January. Erling Haaland, Chelsea wanting to sign the player in the summer. So it could be the same case. We really hope it can be, because he's an anomaly talent. He really is a freakishly good player, and I look at what this team lacks. it lacks a consistent goal scorer. And if there are elements to this team that I think Chelsea need to improve for next season, there are many question marks over players who will be here, maybe not be here next season. We don't know that for now, but I do think Chelsea, if we want to get back to a serious title challenge, need someone we can rely on week in, week out. And Erling Haaland could be that player. And it feels like a club target. If Roman's in for him, there's a likelihood of it happening. It just feels more and more the noise constantly day in, day out could mean this still can happen. I think Raiola is the big stumbling block here for me if Chelsea were to go in, because of course there has been issues in the past of Chelsea not wanting to deal at all with Raiola and sort of the pitfalls of dealing with him. But Chelsea is serious, and if Chelsea want to get back to the top of the Premier League, they need to do big deals to improve this squad. So I think Haaland, we're going to have to wait and see. I did a poll on my channel. I asked you guys, do you think Erling Haaland will sign for Chelsea this summer? And you guys were quite positive about it, but also quite mixed about it. Of course, a big transfer. Many things can fall through in a transfer, as we know. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Let me know your opinions on Haaland, all of the news recently in the comments below. And finally, a player who could be leaving in the summer, sadly, is Fikayo Tomori. Simon Phillips here tweeting about Gazzetta, of course, from Italy, a source over there, claiming that AC Milan are likely to purchase Fikayo Tomori outright permanently from Chelsea at the end of the season. He's doing wonderfully well at the moment for AC Milan. He is playing week in, week out. I've seen some of his performances. He's really impressing for them. He's getting such good experience with AC Milan. He really is, in terms of learning a new culture. I definitely suggest you go and listen to London is Blue pod. They had Matt Law on. They have Matt Law on pretty regularly. And Matt Law did an extensive interview with Fikayo Tomori recently. And he was speaking with Tomori about how Tomori is learning the language in Italy and is really trying to embed himself in that culture and make himself a more rounded footballer. And I think that's a great thing. Now, the big question mark here is, will Tomori return to Chelsea? And it's a bit like last night, and as I was speaking earlier with Christensen, right, you think about that centre-back situation, and if Christensen really nails down that position for himself, and there's no sort of question mark over him leaving the club in the summer, and we sort of know Christensen is going to be a big player for Thomas Tuchel, it really does shake up sort of that whole situation once again and changes the dynamic of it, because you think about Kurt Zouma, question marks over his future. Would Tomori want to return? But Tomori may think to himself, you know, I've got a future here, and it's all about, I think, sort of AC Milan's insistence, or maybe lowering the fee, Chelsea sort of setting a fee, an option to buy that was included in this loan deal originally back in January. For Tomori, I think it'd be a bit of a shame, because I think this guy does have a massive future, and I think it would be a bit of a mistake for Chelsea to let him go. I think you can be influenced by recent results. I think we know football can change very quickly, and I think Tomori does have a bright future for such a young defender, and I was so impressed with him last season at Chelsea. And I just think for Chelsea to easily let him go, I really hope it isn't one of those transfers we regret. You do have to understand that we can't keep every player. That's going to be the case. And some players will leave the club naturally. We have a lot of talented youngsters, and not all of them can make it at a club like Chelsea, at any club. And some will go on to, you know, big heights and have great careers, you know, away from Chelsea. That's just the nature of football. We've seen it so many times. I just hope it isn't to a level where Chelsea regret it, where we think we don't really improve the area enough. You know, if Chelsea fix our defensive issues and we let go of Fikayo Tomori, you can sort of deal with it, but I can't deal with it if we don't invest properly. If in 5 years we've solved Fikayo Tomori and our centre-back situation is an issue still and we haven't really resolved it, you would look back at that as a mistake, really, you would. So I think Fikayo Tomori, I'm intrigued to hear your opinions on this, because I think Tomori has a bright future, and especially in a team now playing progressively, I think he can have a future under Thomas Tuchel. There's so many things up in the air, and I just think for Tomori's own sake, players being away from the club now, seeing themselves having a future elsewhere, and Tomori maybe feeling unwanted at Chelsea, given it's his club, you know, coming through the academy, but maybe now seeing a new future for himself elsewhere in Italy and becoming a more cultured player, you know, being in Serie A, developing more and more, getting more minutes, consistent minutes now. He may feel it's the best time to move on to Chelsea. Marina may feel it's the best time to cash in on him and get a big fee for him in the summer. Let me know your opinions on Fikayo Tomori and his future at Chelsea in the comments below. But that is it for this edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch it. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again